Hi guys, well if you're watching this video then you're probably just about to start your first diving course or you've come across some kind of difficulty whilst equalising your ears. Now the first thing I'm going to say is that equalising your ears isn't scary and it should never be something that you should worry about, but it is important that you don't try and dive without equalising or try and force your way down because you can really damage your ears. For those that don't know, you have to equalise your ears the deeper down you go in the water because the gas inside certain air spaces in your body shrinks down because of the growing pressure around you. You don't have too many air spaces inside your body and most of them actually equalise themselves, but there is a tiny chamber in your middle ear that can get trapped and needs to be equalised. So there is a handy tube between your mouth and your ears called the eustachian tube that needs to be equalised manually, and if you don't then it can be very uncomfortable and you can actually hurt your ears if you descend without equalising them properly. So most divers don't have a problem with equalising once they've got the hang of the technique, but not everybody is the same and some people struggle. And even if you don't have a problem with equalising, you can always improve your technique, so let's take a closer look at how to stop your ears from ruining your dive. This one has probably already crossed your mind if you're struggling to equalise and you're, watching this video, but most people actually forget to equalise and do it a little bit too late, which can lead to ear problems. Practice equalising your ears on the way to the dive site, not on the surface swim, but actually on the boat or in the car, because equalising well before a dive can help prepare everything and basically loosen things up ready for the dive. I often find myself equalising my ears at my desk at work because you can't over-equalise your ears and it's better to sort of prepare your ears. It just makes it much easier to equalise when you actually hit the water. Once you're actually in the water and you're descending, then early and frequent equalising is the key. The greatest change in pressure is in the first 10 metres or 33 feet. The first 10 metres will actually double the ambient pressure, so you really need to equalise the most at this stage of the dive. If you can, then try and equalise all the way through this stage, but don't ever force it. The most you want to sort of push whilst exhaling, if you're doing like the Valsalva technique, is something like blowing light bubbles through a straw. That's about as hard as you want to blow. Any harder than that and you're just working too hard. Equalising is never about doing it harder. It's not a button on an elevator which comes faster if you push the button harder. You just need to do it gently. If you feel the need to equalise harder, then you may be congested or maybe try using a method that just doesn't work for you. In which case, either try a different method, obviously, or just kind of end the dive. If you don't equalise early or often enough, then you can sometimes just lock the eustachian tubes closed because the ambient pressure is basically pushing against the opening. In this instance, the basic sort of hold your nose and blow may not even work, no matter how hard you try. So just ascend a little bit, get rid of that ambient pressure, and then try again and see how you go. Use a line if you can to sort of hold on to, or sort of look at the reef and to basically monitor your depth, and just start from the beginning if you have to. Go back to the top and then go back down, but try not to do too much of a zigzag profile. There are many different methods for equalising your ears, and I'll bet anything that you were probably taught to pinch your nose and blow against it. So this is known as the Valsalva method, which does work for most people, and it's pretty simple, which is why it's taught, but there are quite a few other techniques that might work better for you. Personally, I use a sort of Frenzel VTO kind of technique, which is basically like yawning with my mouth closed. Sometimes I'll pinch my nose just to be sure and do that kind of sort of different methods, but whatever it is that works for you. Now I'm just going to run through a few Dan recommended methods. We've already mentioned the Valsalva, but Dan actually doesn't really recommend that one because it's not really the best, to be honest, and it's got too many flaws compared to its benefits. But first off, there's my method, which is the voluntary tubal opening, which is a horrible name, but it works for me. By basically tensing the muscles of your soft palate and your throat as if you're yawning whilst kind of pushing your jaw forwards, if you need to. This opens up your tubes and leaves your hands free to do stuff. And you can also do this all the way down if you need to, but it can lead to involuntary yawning because you're just repeating that action. The Toynbee maneuver is done by pinching your nose and swallowing. Swallowing actually pulls your eustachian tubes open whilst your tongue actually pushes air up into them, equalizing them. You can actually upgrade this technique to the Lowry technique, which is sort of pinch nose, blow and swallow. So it's basically combining the Valsalva and the Toynbee basically into one sort of super mechanism. Frenzel, if you pinch your nose and make a K noise, it kind of forces the back of your tongue up. That kind of opens up the tubes and yeah, it just allows you to equalize. One big enemy of equalizing is mucus, and your body makes a lot of it in all sorts of places. So diving with a cold or just whilst you're congested is a definite no-no. Also try and leave your decongestant medication at home too, just kind of skip the dive because it might wear off during the dive and you could end up with a reverse block or worse, where basically trapped air is expanding but it can't escape at the end of the dive. If you orientate yourself in a head-up position, which I know is the worst position to be in the water as a scuba diver, but this can actually help you actually equalize. For some unknown reason, the human body works quite well in an upright head-up position, and air naturally heads up to the eustachian tubes whilst mucus drains down out of the bottom, simultaneously clearing any blockage and actually equalizing the airspace. A few things that can actually lead to more mucus being produced, so if possible try and avoid these three things: alcohol, tobacco and seawater around your nose. Sorry, but actually these things can irritate the delicate membranes around your ears, nose and throat, which can either cause them to swell up or to actually create protective mucus, so these can all lead to problems equalizing. So stay off the cigarettes, alcohol and don't let water get up your nose.
Boo!
Yeah, killjoy. So basically a lot of equalizing is all about what you do in the hours before a dive. Try and prepare your ears beforehand. If you want to use a decongestant, then talk with your doctor first. Sort of test them out well before a dive to make sure that you don't have the opposite reaction. You basically want to take it really early and make sure that it lasts at least like 8 to 12 hours. They're not a definite no-no, but in my books, it's always worth kind of skipping the dive if you have to use a decongestant. Try and equalize before you even think you'll need to do it. And if you do struggle, don't just sit there trying the same technique over and over again. Try and ascend a little bit. Try a different method because there is more than one way to equalize your ears, and then try again. If you can't get it, then just end the dive. There's no shame in it. There's no sense sort of hurting yourself. Just try a different method. So are you partial to some voluntary tubal openings or are you more of a Frenzel diver? Let's discuss what you do to equalize your ears in the comments below. Thank you for watching and of course, safe diving.
Cool. If you don't have ears, then
Just cut them off.
yeah.
Just cut out the middleman.
That's it. Just slice them off. No ears, no problem.
I'm going to talk about mucus a lot in this.
Ooh, mucus.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Mucus. Okay, so I was reading the scripts. It had the word yawning.
And you yawned.
I was yawning throughout.
I was watching you
I
yawn.
was like, oh, I'm fine.
Or co-molded silicone skirts, then you know that you're a step or two above the first generation of masks that was just made from rubber. But in our modern world of folding phones and rotating TVs that can sync to your phone so you can watch TikToks on a vertical TV, is scuba diving tech behind the times?